What is the worst possible way to be rejected? When they're your ride home. I was outright ignored. Just not a single thing said, so I awkwardly never talked to them again because they didn't seem to want to talk to me. Not a rejection, but when we were in college, a girl I had been friends with throughout high school said, "Ben, I used to fancy you a few years back, but my standards have gone up since then." She said that in front of all our other friends. Fortunately, I found the whole thing hilarious. In middle school, my friend wrote a letter to his crush asking her to a dance, dropped it on her desk and then left because he was nervous. As we walked outside, we watched her through the window reading it, laughing, and then getting a bunch of her friends to come over and they read it together, laughing their asses off. I went to a bar with a girl that I had met at work once. We had really hit it off from day one, and so we had decided to go get drinks. But the whole day she was just off. Like, she wasn't rude or anything, she was just acting weird. When we got to the bar, we basically sat in awkward silence until, who would have guessed it, her ex shows up. He comes over to the table, introduces himself to me and then starts talking to the girl, and she immediately stops acting weird. And then he left. And then she started acting weird again. Eventually, she excuses herself to go to the bathroom. She was gone for a while. So I turn around in my seat and look toward the bathroom, and there she is, sitting in her ex's lap, making out with him. When the person acts like she just saw something disgusting. Come on, first you just say no. If they insist, then you can do whatever you want. But let us have the chance to walk away with just a no. Preemptive rejection. I've had it happen a couple times. Both times were with women, girls who were part of a circle of friends. I never showed any interest in either. But, somehow, they both felt the need to say, out of the blue, "I'll never sleep with you. It's all good, things evened out." Being told to wait until recess for an answer to the "Do you like me?" question. Waiting, then being told, "Hell no." On the playground with a gaggle of 6th grade girls behind her. I still carry the scar, 30 years later. Their partner tells you. When I lived in SoCal in the early 2000s, there was a bogus phone hash girls could give people who asked for their hash. An answering machine would then play a message saying, "Sorry, you've been rejected, lol," and hang up on you. Edit. The rejection hotline. That was it. Lol. Middle school. I had my friends. She had hers. I asked her. She said, "No, no." My friends laugh. Her friends laughed, but one of her friends said to my buddies, "Why you laughing? That's messed up." Thank you, kind friend of hers. Edit. I wish I can put a happy ending to this tale. A lot of you has suggested that maybe the friend is the one for me. That I should have married her, but that friend was my good friend for a long time. She had her guy. I had my girl. And unfortunately, during senior year of high school, she sadly took her own life. RIP. I was the first in my family to graduate college and was incredibly proud of myself for making it despite my limited resources and having to work my way through school. My father told me he wouldn't come to my graduation. Said it really wasn't that big of a deal. I still remember the phone call and just sitting in the grass in the common area sobbing while people walked past. Rejection by a parent is something I don't wish on anyone. I don't really talk to anyone in my family about my feelings. One time I was feeling courageous enough to tell my brother, who I am closest to, that I was feeling sad, and I asked if we could talk about it. He said, "No," without even looking at me. I don't talk to anyone in my family about my feelings anymore. I went on a first date with a girl. We had a nice dinner and really seemed to be hitting it off. We decided to visit a jazz club after dinner. Some guy started flirting with her when she was on her way to the ladies' room. It continued when she was on her way back. Dude then posted up nearby and just kept looking at her and winking at her while she was sitting at the table with me. She excused herself and went over and started talking to the guy. I was hopeful that it was a "What the frock is your problem, dude?" conversation. But no, soon they were laughing and joking and exchanging numbers. When I decided to call it a night, she thanked me for dinner and said she was going to hang out a bit longer. I was 12. All my classmates pushed me to confess to my crush, who was standing on the stairs. Everyone was staring at me as I, in my prepubescent anxiety, man ahead to blurt out, "I love you." While holding my arms up, she put on the deepest expression of disgust I've ever seen. And I run away. Fun times. Getting stood up, sitting at a bar alone, all dressed up, waiting for him to arrive. He never showed. Maybe he saw me and was disappointed and left? Maybe he just ghosted for no reason? Who knows, but it was humiliating. Has screenshotted this conversation. My first boyfriend in high school told me I wasn't religious enough to date him and broke up with me. He did this after church before we left the building. Pulled me aside in a conference room like we were having an evaluation meeting. A few months later, he was sent home from a school trip for having sex in the bathroom. My first thought, I guess she was religious enough for him. Edit. Thank you, good people of Reddit, for soothing my inner 14-yo heartbreak. Holy Ghost Cola is a hypocrite's crutch. Also a good song title. Amen. stringing you along so you upend your life, move across country, buy and start renovating a house, and only then learn that she wasn't really serious. I have contradicting feelings about this comment section. On one hand, I would like to read other people's stories, and on the other hand, I am enraged from all the absolute BS people had to go through as teens. In 6th grade, a very overweight and shy gal wrote my older popular brother, an 8th grader, a love note. We congregated in the gym before first bell, with grades separated. 6th graders were opposite the side of 8th graders. She was sitting directly opposite of him on the first row. He was on his first row. I watched as he took the note out, then ripped it apart and dropped it on the ground, all while staring directly at her. This gal continued to mildly stalk my family, and in high school told everyone her and I were dating. I never spoke to her once in my life. A friend of mine was served separation papers through text. They've been married for 6 years. Ew. Asked a girl for her phone number one night at the bar. She smiled and happily gave it to me. Waited a few days and called it. Turns out it was for a funeral home. I died a little inside that day. Cat Stevens wrote, Lady Darbanville, about the death of the love of his life. She was alive and found out they broke up when she heard the song by chance on the radio. I just have to be by myself for a while to do what I want to do. It's good to be alone sometimes. Look, Steven wrote that song when I left for New York. I left for a month. It wasn't the end of the world, was it? But he wrote this whole song about, Lady Darbanville, why do you sleep so still? It's about me dead. So while I was in New York, for him it was like I was lying in a coffin. He wrote that because he missed me. Because he was down. I cried when I heard it, because that's when I knew it was over for good. Anything making it personal, really. We talk about lack of empathy, but it seems the opposite. If you didn't care what the other person felt, your rejection would be boring. If you want to enjoy the fact that you caused them pain, you make it personal. When I was in high school, a girl I knew was trying to set me up with one of her friends who I was acquainted with. I was resistant because I was like 15 and never had a girlfriend before and was nervous. Eventually it got to the point where she straight up told me if I didn't walk up to her right now and ask her out, she was going to do it for me. I decided, screw it, and walked up to her and asked her out. She initially said let me think about it, which I knew damn well was a no, so I was pretty deflated. Then the next day she comes up to me and hands me a 2-page note about how she was never going to go out with me and how I was ugly. LMFAO. Edit. Stop upvoting this shit. I'm gonna end up on one of those YouTube AskReddits. I went to a club with my friends and this guy came over to our group to ask my friend's cousin if she wanted to dance. She yelled, OMG, ew, no, loudly and put her hand up to block him. It was the most vicious rejection I've ever seen to a guy who was being super nice about it. I already have a hard time approaching girls, and that shit always plays in my mind to this day when I'm trying to get myself to talk to a girl. Ask someone out to a school dance, they don't respond for 2 weeks, by then the forms for it can't be turned in anymore just for her to tell you nah. The worst she can say is no. Ew. Proceeds to make TikToks about it and telling everyone about it. Dude I know knocked up his girlfriend that he had only known for 3 months. He was a real loser with none of his crap together. But he still impulsively asked her to marry him. She bluntly told him she was getting an abortion, and she never wanted to see him again. Obviously she was right. But still, ouch. True story. Last year I liked a girl. I told her. She didn't say much after until one night. I was looking at TikTok and there was a TikTok of her rejecting me to the public. Her saying ew. And how I was quite ugly. Deleted TikTok since then. Got laughed at to my face in junior high. That one sucked. When my college roommate screwed up his courage to ask a girl out, she told him, if you and I were the last people on earth, my answer would still be no. Ghosting. Reject me outright. Don't leave me in suspense. So, here I am. A junior in high school. I got this mad crush on a girl. One day at lunch I grow a pair and asked her to a ball my school was hosting. She said yes and I was over the moon. Later that day we were texting and she said that she forgot that she's going to be out of town that day. And I told her it was no biggie. I'll just bring my friend who's homeschooled. A little bit later that day we were once again talking and I asked her out on a date. And that's when she hit me with the, oh, I have a boyfriend. We could go as friends though. Still frockin' confused. You ask her out and she laughs. This content is not available right now. When your family kicks you out of the house. Ew. Hell no. There. You just broke the poor fella's soul. A friend from work. Hanging out for a year or so. One night something happened and it was unbelievable. Next morning she says, well, we're not going to do that again. Oof. Happy ending. Hung out as friend for another year. Then she moved 100 miles away. Couple of months later she invited me to visit to go to Disneyland with her and her sister's kids. I was basically the dad to help with the 2 boys. Of course I went. After that, Started visiting her every couple of weeks. Finally one night, it happened again. And here is the obligatory, we've been married for 21 years now. Edit. We were both pretty inebriated the first time. If you were the trophy at the end of a race, I'd run backwards. To admit to liking a girl. She says she likes you back, and the next day she moves across the country. True story. I've never asked someone out due to being way too scared. But my friend asked a guy out. He proceeded to tell everyone in the school, and on Snapchat he added a picture of her saying, "Why did this ugly breach ask me out LMAO, frocking harsh. Being rejected before you ask." I was on my way to work and got broken up through text with a smiley face emoji. It was out of the blue, and a month ago we were talking about moving in together in another state. A friend's little brother did this. On purpose. To set the scene we can use these names. Bob was dating Carol and Bob's best friend was Ted. So what Bob did was he sent Carol this text message. "Hey Ted, I think I'm going to break up with Carol tonight. But I'm just not sure how to do it. Cold-blooded. MH. I was told by some guy, if you lose 10 kilograms I will reconsider. When I was 16. I wasn't really fat. I was 59 kilograms and 166 meters, but every other girl in our class was insanely skinny. That really destroyed me. Bought a girl I liked a rose for V-Day. Asked her out and she said yes. Couldn't talk to her for a week, then she broke up with me saying she only said yes because nobody should be rejected on V-Day. Guess that's not rejection. But close enough. I could have handled her saying no. She wouldn't have been the first. Everyone else in the area forms a synchronized song and dance routine led by the rejector. That proceeds to list and mock all of your shortcomings and problems. And then you get the enormous bill for the training and choreographing and hiring. Had a crush on a girl when I was in college and she had a crush on me. At least she said she did. And we kissed. I met her mom and had dinner with them. Did some sexting. But later she told me she wasn't ready for a relationship. Guess what? A week later she had a boyfriend. Another girl, whom I met on Tinder a couple of months after I graduated, had a crush on me and I had a crush on her. A huge one. We had a couple of dates. Made it official. Met her parents. Slept over. Nothing sexual. Had dinner and went to 2 movies in a row. A month and a half later she texted me when I was at work telling me she wanted to get closer to God, focus on Him, go on a Christian camp and internship, and that it was probably better for us to break up. Me being an atheist and her being a Christian. Already living with someone. He says he wants to just make some new friends, and answers an M4 meters personal ad. Me. He's looking for more than friends. Him. But it's okay. I told him I'm just looking for friends. He doesn't come home that night. I'm very concerned and worried. I piece together what I can and find the neighborhood and then the house and the car. At like 3 a.m. Me. Is he here? Stranger at the door. Sure, I'll get him. He comes down in PJs. Me. Are you okay? Him. Yes, I'm okay. Everything is okay. Nothing's wrong. Then him. If you want to talk we can talk tomorrow after me and Steve get breakfast. 1997. But still hurts when I think about it. Being strung along, having someone call you all the time and lean on you for emotional support, constantly telling you they love you. Then disappearing to their real boyfriend's house every weekend. Oh, and then trying to disrupt or mess up every other potential relationship you could get into. Had to change her name in my phone to lying breach to get myself to remember not to answer. Looking back though, the only regret I have is that I let it go on for too long. Pour literally everything. All your energy, effort and whatnot into a girl. Mutually have feelings. Finally feel happy after she says, "Can't wait to fall in love with you in person." Grow closer over time. Spend time with her. She visits for 2 weeks. Goes home and says she wants to be exclusive but changes mind after a month because too broken. Only for that to be a lie and find out 3 months later there's someone else and have her say she has genuine feelings for someone for the first time after 2 years. Ew, no. Junior year of college there was this girl that worked with on a group project. She was cute, funny, and I though nice. A week after the project was complete I asked her if she wanted to get coffee at a cafe by campus. She responded back, "Like a coffee date?" I said, "Yeah." She said ew, no. She could have just said no thanks, or I don't like you that way. No need to be soul crushing. We were close friends for 3 years. I always had a crush on her. But she went through boyfriends like water. She knew I liked her and hinted at liking me too before I left for a long trip. When I got back, we were hanging out and having some drinks. I went in for a kiss when we were saying our goodbyes for the night. She reciprocated the kiss and then the next day ghosted me and never talked to me again. Ew, gross. I'm straight. Sees him kissing a guy. She blows you off like you don't exist at all. She told me she loved me. When I asked her out, it turned out that she wasn't serious and she only said it in a friendly way because she felt sorry for me having depression and being lonely. I've only ever asked a girl out on a date once. She worked at the gas station I always stopped at on my way to work about 3.5 years ago. I found my balls and asked, to which she replied, "Sorry. I'm 29 and married." Quite the shocker, cuz I never noticed the ring and I thought she was like 21 or something, haha. I was 23. I was wearing my high school uniform sweater though, so she probably thought I was like 17 or 18, haha. She wasn't rude about it or anything, and I still stop at the place for gas and it's not awkward. So that's good, lol. Once had a guy literally run away from me screaming. In a crowded hallway. Yeah. Unrequited love is the worst human feeling. My first crush in middle school. I wrote her a poem and left it on her desk. At recess the teacher asked me to stay behind and rejected me for her. Apparently the girl had a boyfriend in another class. Having the teacher do it for her felt weird to me. I wish the story ended there, but she, the girl, kept the poem on her and from time to time she would pull it out and show me that she still had it and remind me that I was still rejected. Edited for clarity. She said, "We couldn't possibly raise a child together when one parent is normal and the other a Muslim." At that moment, I realized for the 3 years we were dating, she thought I was Muslim. I drank. I made candied bacon. I never prayed. I'm not even from a Muslim family. She had no reason to have believed that. Told her my family is Christian, and she said, "Yeah, but not really. You guys were converts. You know, from the British, excuse you breach. We've been this way since 52 AD. I'd say just being ghosted in general. Not knowing what happened sucks and is an empty feeling. It's hard to get over. First guy the first had given a chance after high school. We hit it off, but I was definitely a little awkward because anytime I was interested in someone in the past they ended up wanting to date all my friends instead. Perks of being the plus-sized friend, so I wasn't used to someone actually wanting me for me. A couple weeks later a friend who was there the night I met him tells me that they had been hanging out at the gym. First I had heard of this, and she had feeling for him and thought he had feelings for her too, which he later confirmed. So there I was, back to square one because the guy the first liked wanted to date my friend. Again. Around 2013 I went to a bar with some friends. I started chatting with a girl and things seemed to be going well. My friends were getting ready to go to another bar so I asked for her number. She says sure. So I pull out my phone, as she is giving me her number. It seems weird. Like no local area code. As soon as she starts on the last 4 I realize it's the number to one of those joke lines with some long convoluted burn on you being rejected. I stopped punching in numbers and just look at her. When she realizes I stopped she gives me a look and I just said, "The least you could do is have the respect to tell me no." Deer in headlights as I turned to walk away. I may have caught the shutdown but it still killed my mood for a few weekends. My first long-term boyfriend broke up with me. Long distance. I was 17. I drove 8 hours unannounced to try to get him back. I knocked on his door. Tearfully made my case. And he kissed me. So we went to the bedroom and had sex. Then I said, "OMG, I'm starving, can we go somewhere to eat?" And he said, "Get out. I never want to see you again." I spent the night at a hotel and drove home the next day. When her husband shows up at her house with a shotgun. I asked a girl I liked to the deb ball. Believe they call it prom in Yankland. She said yes, and on the night as I was on my way to pick her up I got a text from her saying, "Don't bother coming, I found someone else to take me." In front of all your friends. I asked this girl out to lunch for a first date. We didn't really know each other but there was a bit of chemistry so I think we both were down to try. Halfway through a female friend of mine comes in the restaurant, sees me, and comes up to say hi. We talk for a minute and she goes to meet her friends at a table. My date conspiratorially whispers that she thought it was so cool that I knew this friend because she, my date, had a crush on my friend from seeing my friend around town. My date asked if I would give her my friend's phone number or send them up on a blind date. Needless to say, that was rather the end of my hopes for that relationship. Asking your date to play matchmaker is a bit much. I thought you were gay? Being told no, then yes, then no, then having the person constantly hang over your head that you asked them out while pretending they just might be interested even if they really aren't. If you do that, you're a heartless as whole and you need to reevaluate your life. When you go home and she's sucking your dad instead. When your dog chooses someone else over you. Okay, maybe not the actual worst, but it still stings. Even 10 years of marriage later, when she chooses my husband over me, I still whisper, "Traitor," at her under my breath. If they accidentally texted you a screenshot of your offer with the caption, "Help me reject this guy," because she was trying to send it to a friend, that would frocking hurt. This was back in the 8th grade so it's going to be super corny. So there was this girl in school I had a really huge crush on, and wrestled with the thought of asking her out. I used to write poetry so my friend suggested I write her a poem. So I did exactly that and went to her class, which was on the 2nd floor. She was standing in the balcony with her friends when I handed the poem to her. She read the poem with a smirk, laughed and showed it to her girl gang, which also laughed, and she folded the sheet of paper into a paper plane and threw it out of the balcony. I'm a pretty confident guy, but thinking of this incident really gives me the butterflies. Might be an unpopular opinion, but worst possible way I would say is when the person isn't clear cut if they like you or not. Stringing someone along hurts far more in the long run than any quick and painful approach. When they outright tell you no, there's your answer. When they don't, it's incredibly hard to know and move on. I was told straight up that I'm ugly. Physically. Not only once but twice. The reason why I have low self-esteem on my physical look. Rejected for a job. Took a personality test during the application process. Wound up receiving an email that told me I'm a terrible person. It wasn't even the effort I put in that was wasted. Just the realization that they had backed up their rejection with hard scientific proof that I'm not a good enough person for them. It was just for a job at a grocery store. Sometimes I still think about it and cry. I was dumped on my 19th birthday. By text. When this was considered cowardly and rude. While it dumping rain. And I was on my way to my city minimum wage job. Stuck in traffic. Edit. I still think it's rude and cowardly to dump someone over text, but in my comings and goings, it doesn't seem like as many people do anymore. Maybe it's confirmation bias in some way though. I was applying for a job right out of college. I was desperate, so I applied to anything I was remotely qualified for. One of the letters I got back was essentially, "Thanks for applying. We haven't filled the position. But we don't want you. You could have lied and said you found someone, but no. Had to point out that even with no other candidates you wouldn't hire me." When I was 21, my boyfriend of a couple of years had his side piece turned new girlfriend call me on my birthday to explain that not only was he no longer taking me out to dinner for my birthday, but B, he was dumping me, and C, he'd been cheating for 6 months, and D, she was pregnant. It's been 16 years and sometimes I still pause in the middle of what I'm doing, grow wistful, sit back and revel in the extraordinary levels of what the ever-loving frock occurred that day. Being ghosted.